From under the Golden Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Capitol Report. I'm host Dave Perry, and I'm joined today by Allison Taylor, a member of the Fayette County Commission, first term. Allison, welcome to the Capitol Report.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. Listen, let's talk a little bit about Allison. I understand you had 7 years in the Air Force.
That's right.
I understand you also worked on Homeland Security proposals with the federal government for about 11 years.
Well, mostly counterterrorism during that 11 years, but Homeland Security Act and Homeland Security Strategy were a couple of my contributions.
So this background and this experience you've had, and you're a practicing lawyer, how do you feel that's helped facilitate your ability to serve as a Fayette County Commissioner?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you there is no training or education you could have that would prepare you for being a county commissioner. None whatsoever. There are just so many things that come flying at you, but I do feel like my time in government, understanding government purchasing, rules and laws, and how to manage the county personnel, those things came in. Of course, as a senior executive, I gave some contribution to some federal legislation, as you know. And I've also, written policy and understand the importance of strategic planning, managing budgets, and that sort of thing. And as a lawyer, of course, we do go a little more granular, so I know how to keep us from getting sued.
Absolutely. And I understand as part of your responsibilities, or part of your actions as a county commissioner, you have tried to engage other county commissions on issues.
That's true. It has been very important. A couple of examples are on the jail bill. Raleigh County came up with a great process, and I couldn't tell you the whole process because our prosecuting attorney spearheaded it. But to save money on the jail bill, we had people going in jail for misdemeanor crimes. They weren't able to afford to make bonds, so they sat there for a long time, and it costs over $50 a day, about $50 a day to keep them there. So when the prosecuting attorney got on this in the last year, we have saved 40%, $500,000
Wow.
in the last year just because of the jail bill.
I know that jail bills, as you said, has been a concern since I was in the legislature in 2016. And everyone's looking at ways to cut that. Of course, the legislature this session, I understand, froze those costs for a number of years.
For not that long, for about a year,
For a year.
and then the costs are going to go up. One of the hardest issues for the counties at this point is that municipalities don't have to contribute to the jail bill. Only the counties do. So like in counties like Fayette, where you have wealthy municipalities like Oak Hill,
Right.
And Fayetteville, they are not required to pay their part of the jail bill. So when their police departments arrest somebody, they really don't have any stake in what it's going to cost to house that person until something gets done. So that's been and I know as a councilman we have a conflict on that issue, but from a county perspective, that really hurts the counties.
Certainly. And you talked about the prosecuting attorney reducing your odds by or saving $500,000. What are some of the things that he has done or you all have implemented to cause that savings?
Well, what he did again, Raleigh County, I think Brian Parsons in Raleigh County, he's an assistant prosecutor over there,
Right.
Fayette County guy who spearheaded the effort. But he worked with the courts, and so Anthony Siliberti, our prosecutor, went over and he talked to the courts in Raleigh, or to Brian, found out what they were doing. But they were basically reviewing all the people who had been in jail, what their charges were, whether it was a violent crime or not, whether they could be released to our day report center. And the county commission here, and this actually was an idea, this is where the counties work together, of the Judge Callahan over in Nicholas County, that the county commission pay for those who can't afford their day report center or their GPS monitoring so we can get them out of jail. And they'd have to meet, of course, the same criteria as anybody who qualified for appointed counsel. But those are some of the things that we've done, and it's been, as you can tell, highly effective. $500,000 is a lot of money in county dollars.
That's certainly not pocket change.
It's not at all. Not at all.
So let's talk also, I know since you've come on the Fayette County Commission, that you all have very closely looked at projects or efficient, effective spending. What's some of the things you've done to cause that to happen?
Well, the first thing
that you would suggest to your colleagues across the state?
Well, one thing we did was we took a look at where we were spending money to make sure that we were spending money where we should be. And we found out we weren't in every case. So we stopped doing that. We put a halt to the projects where we thought we should not be spending money. And another thing we did was we came up with some priorities. Previously, the commissioners were trying to do the right thing by everybody who came before them as kind of first come, first serve. And they meant well by it, but as you know, what the result of that was is that they would come in, somebody would come in with a public safety issue or something, and then the money was gone.
Right.
And so that's something that we took a look at, and we're just not spending money willy-nilly. We're setting priorities, and our priorities really are infrastructure and dilapidated housing. And we're not fooling around with anything else right now unless it's a smaller thing, like Montgomery had a building burned down, so we sent some money down there to help demolish it so it would be safe for the public to walk by because it was right in town. But those are the kind of things that we've been doing. Another thing is, you know, a lot of these counties started spending that America's Rescue Plan money like they had a hole in their pocket. And two things that concern me about the way I've seen other municipalities and counties do it is they started spending right away. They were spending on a request-by-request basis, and they were spending it on things that they should be budgeting for. So one of the things that we did, we decided we are saving all 8.1 million until we get all the requests to review them at one time. So that's one thing. So there's not going to be a piecemeal allocation of that money. Another is we are not spending the money on anything that we should be budgeting for, like raises, salaries, and things like that. You'll see people give everybody a raise. Now, we did find a way to give our deputies a raise and our 911 dispatchers a raise, but it was out of our own budget from the jail bill spending or savings.
Right.
So we were able to do that. The other thing is, you know, we are only spending that money on infrastructure, probably broadband, as a match for a grant. We were going to put the majority of it toward broadband. We requested that we requested some money, and we had to put a 25% match. Over $5 million of the 8.1 would go toward broadband in the county, studying it, and then in a subsequent budget cycle, we're going to be able to get money to get it built. We might even be able to build some out of this budget cycle. We're still trying to figure out the exact cost of everything, but if we don't study it, we won't know the exact cost. But we were looking at major routes throughout the county, not just Fayetteville and Oak Hill adjacent, but all the way down to the valley, all the way up 60 and 61 on all of our major routes along those places.
So that's all encompassing with the territory or the geography that you serve.
Right.
I also understand part of what you said and have seen it in action with your county commission. A lot of the control has come down to an application process.
Well, it has, and there are several sources of funding, and of course these are the things that you don't know coming into a job like this. One of the sources that has deadlines is federal earmark funding. So our federal representatives, Senators Manchin and Capito, and Congresswoman Miller have all given us information on deadlines for federal earmark funding. Now, you have to have studies like the ones I mentioned for broadband to be able to request money, because they want to know you've thought it through before you ask for money. They're not going to give you money unless you thought it through and invested in it already. So the things that we had already thought through and invested in and studied were trail funding to connect our trails, because that's a big part of the tourism industry. Dilapidated housing, as I mentioned, we did some studies, and we're trying to even capitalize on tourism funding to try to get some of the houses torn down along the major tourist routes, so when our tourists come in, you know, they don't see this mess. And then water and sewage, which is our big one, and it's the reason I ran for office, is because people didn't have clean water. So we had quite a few studies done for that, and it's going to help us a lot with economic development, especially the Route 19, Route 60 area.
Well, Allison, our program director, is saying our first session is about over, and certainly the information you've shared with us not only is applicable to Fayette County, but would be applicable to other counties throughout the state, which there seems to be a genuine intent on your part to share.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, for one, on the broadband issue, I contacted my colleagues, most of whom I met in new commissioner training last year in neighboring counties. So it was Raleigh, Nicholas, Webster, Fayette, and who's the other one I had? Not Clay, Summers. So those were our ones. The ones who are national park adjacent or who have some nexus to existing broadband infrastructure. And we all met just on short notice, not as full commissions, but we have representatives from each of those commissions to talk about broadband. And then I had the opportunity to meet with the Economic Development Director for the governor, Mitch Carmichael, and I let him know these 5 counties have worked together, and we wanted to put in for broadband money, and we wanted to work together and be considered a region as we did that. And I did that with their permission. And I think we got their attention. We'll find out soon when they, decide who gets the money.
Right.
But we all did work together. We all got guidance on how to put in applications. I went back to those counties and I said, this is how they want us to handle it, but they'll look at us as a group. And it's my understanding from what I hear that we are going to get what we asked for. But, when it happens, then I'll be happy.
Well, Allison, we certainly appreciate the first half, and we hope that you folks will stay tuned for us after a short break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. The West Virginia Capitol Report will be right back. From under the Golden Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report, where we're talking with Allison Taylor, Fayette County Commissioner. Allison, when we left, we were talking about National Park in Fayette County, which has recently been established as a national park status. What kind of plans are you going to be making in the future to facilitate the influx of visitors, and what do you think needs to happen in order to accommodate tourism?
Well, one thing is we've already seen a 30% increase in visitors. And when the park was established, we were, the statistic we heard was we were going to have a 30% increase in visitors, mostly from Asia. Well, people from Asia haven't been here yet because of COVID. So we're expecting another round of visitors to come as soon as the travel restrictions come up. So that's one of the things that we're bracing ourselves. Now, a lot of times, as is always with government, they'll create something and then you're expected to figure it out. But in this case, I'm happy to say that both of our senators and Congresswoman Miller are very open to helping us with projects to facilitate the national park. One of the things, like I said, is dilapidated housing along the tourism routes. That was actually the idea of Senator Capito's staff. Another thing is infrastructure. Our visitor center for the national park on our side does not have running sewer there. So one of the projects we put in for federal earmark funding for was to get the sewer plant in Ansted improved so it could accommodate an expansion out Chestnutburg Road, out to the main road to the visitor center, and that way we can use the park status to both help the park visitors and help the residents of Fayette County along that way, including a couple of our bigger businesses, Adventures on the Gorge and others. So, so we're pretty excited about that, and it comes in handy that that we can tie in these needs the county has had for a long time to the park. I mean, we're pretty stoked. So Senator Capito was just here a couple weeks ago. We had a big project going on in Fayetteville to turn the old schools into housing and lodging for the national park visitors. So that's one of the things going on in our area. Another criticism has been access to the trails, the congestion on the trailheads. I have had a couple of informal conversations with the national park about the trailheads, and then they have a new director, so I need to get with her. But we've also I've had conversations, and I know my colleagues have too, with people who are interested in forming transportation businesses to maybe bus people around and have some major pickup points throughout the county, which would really help with that trailhead congestion and the safety issues they cause. So those are some of the things we've been doing.
I know you've talked about dilapidated buildings several times here. And of course, John McCuskey proposed a bill in the legislature this session to create a fund to do kind of an attack on dilapidated buildings. It didn't pass, but as you've said, it's a problem not only in Fayette County, but statewide.
It is a problem, and especially in these smaller counties. I mean, the challenge we've had here in southern West Virginia in particular is that these larger counties have always gotten the money. I mean, they get their dilapidated homes taken care of because they're in Morgantown or Charleston. And listen, I'm happy for them in Berkeley County. I'm happy for them that they're getting money, but I'm not happy that we're not getting money. So that's one of the things that, in getting these other counties together, I don't think broadband is going to be the only thing we work on. I think we're going to go together and, when our counterparts in higher level politics reference the Southern coalfields, I want that to have a face on it. I want them to see that these are the counties, where your national park is now, that is in the Southern coalfields. We need your help. They've had enough love in the north, and now we need some love in the south.
I certainly understand that.
Yep.
So when we talk about national park, we talk about facilitating. I have sensed from you that you feel that commissions, and particularly the Fayette County Commission, has to be proactive in funding.
We absolutely do, and that's last year, my first year in office, I felt like we were in a defensive posture. And there's always something like that in a change in administration. Some people are used to getting their way, and suddenly they're not getting their way. But this year, I'm happy to say that we have worked very well together. We did last year too, but this year we're able to focus and be proactive, plan strategically. We are getting out there, the governor's office and the senators and congresspeople, they invite us to events. We're attending those events and getting right up there with them and telling them what our needs are, making sure they have the faces with the names and they know who we are and that we care and that we're actively working on behalf of Fayette County and the park, of course, to get funding in here to help our citizens.
So those areas specifically that you have targeted or created dialogues with are what areas or types or entities for dollars that may be available?
Well, infrastructure, and everybody says infrastructure, but only 60% of Fayette County has sewage. So that's one. One of the projects we put in for is in a remote part of the county in Meadow Bridge, but it was going to increase the water access by 50%, over 50%. Actually, I think it was like 53%. So we put in for that because that's important. I mean, to not have running water in this day and age, unless you intend to be away from people, is not good. And we have had wells that dry up and things like that, and I'm sure we're not the only ones who have that issue, but people who used to have water don't have water now, and people who have water don't have clean water now. So those are all things that we have been working on. As far as the sewage, I mentioned upgrading septic and sewage systems. We have others, like we support a prison here, Mount Olive Prison. Those water sources are aging, and so we need to make upgrades in order to be able to, fulfill our responsibility to those. And broadband is a huge one. People come here, they want to work remotely even when they're on vacation, and very few places have broadband in this area and wireless. So those are all very important things that the commission has prioritized. And frankly, it would be hard to convince us to spend a cent or at least a major amount of money on anything else that doesn't have something to do with that, because we are so committed to bringing Fayette County into this century, helping our people improve their quality of life and help improve the quality of life for those who wish to move here.
And I know statewide, probably water and sewage and infrastructure, they say if you build it, they'll come. But as an editorial, I've always said it's sad that Americans, Fayette Countyans, West Virginians don't have water and sewer when across the water we make major investments in these projects. So I've always said that's sad. But with that said, I know you identified several areas such as federal funding. What other areas are out there available and access to for money?
State funding.
Okay.
We also have grants, which it's so disappointing as a citizen to know that most of our tax dollars go to the federal government just so we can beg for them back and to spend them in our own communities on needs that we don't have, basic needs such as water. So we have to apply for grants, but I have to tell you, Mayor Montgomery has been very innovative in coming up with some ideas. He goes after private industry, and he gives them a reason to come here and invest, and he's done that. One of his latest things is he's getting a school back down in the valley because he convinced private industry to build one here.
I heard that.
And so, and that's the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that that we are seeking on the commission. We are trying to staff our boards, our advisory boards, with knowledgeable people, not our best friends. We're trying to make them politically balanced and geographically balanced throughout the county. And that has worked because now they have credibility. Everybody is represented. None of us want, we're not into partisan politics. We want to improve the county. And that's all any of us care about. And I think if you are on the county commission anywhere, if that is if you're coming from that space, you are going to serve your constituency well. And on our commission, I'm happy to say we do, and we are.
Right.
And in the last year, I feel like we have made a lot of progress on a lot of things, and with the entirety of the county in mind, not just the parts of the county that have the most population. We've got people spread out, and we need to take care of them too.
Allison, I'm really going to put you on the spot here. Of course, West Virginia is within so many miles geographically of major metropolitan areas. Mm-hmm. So as we talk about that, marketing becomes a very important tool. I know the state of West Virginia has invested money in marketing, tourism's marketing, and especially with the national park. Has there been consideration by the county commission to venture out into the area of some type of marketing?
That's so funny that you should say that, Dave.
I'm sorry.
First of all, the county commission passed its budget again to add the additional 7.5% of the B&O tax to the 50% we're required by state code to give the central visitors bureaus. So we have the New River Gorge, which is the Fayette County one, and then we have the Southern West Virginia one that we contribute to.
Right.
That's out of Beckley and does 5 counties. So we are continuing to contribute to that, but I was just in a meeting today about digital advertising, and I talked to the people. It was for a different purpose, but I said, listen here, I want to get you together with our central visitors bureaus so we can start marketing nationwide. There are people who like to hop these parks, and they are able, don't want to scare y'all, but they are able to figure out if you're interested in national parks by your internet activity.
Right.
And so they can target people. And I talked to them too about advertising in Asia and in Western Europe, in the places where people like to do outdoorsy things, like Germany. Everywhere you go, they have hiking trails and things. Germans would love to come here because our terrain is similar. We have a lot of similar things to do. So we really need to think more broadly than just how to get people from our adjacent, bordering states in here or within an easy drive. So those are, so I definitely did. I talked to these people. I have some notes actually on the other side of this piece of paper right here on how we're going to approach that. And I want to encourage our CVBs, and I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet, so hopefully I talk to them before they see this, but to encourage them to do more digital marketing. Commissioner Luisos in particular has been very emphatic about doing more digital marketing, and he was the first to start pushing it, and not that he had to sell us too much on it, but it was, he thought of that, and just like the trails, he's been spearheading all the trail stuff that'll bring people in.
Of course, it's interesting, this is not rehearsed, that you were talking about that today, digital, and I'm on the CVB board, and we had a presentation on digital advertising today, just on that, and it identified certain geographic areas, certain age populations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the age populations are important too, but I want to think more broadly because a lot of our, we're going to get some of the national park crowd. I want to target out west, I want to target internationally and get more people in here. But in the meantime, we have to build to accommodate them.
Well, Allison, our time's gone, and I certainly enjoyed the conversations we had today, and I hope that our listeners have taken advantage of and heard some of the points that you made today relative to their own counties. So we appreciate you, and we'll be right back in just a moment.
Stay tuned. The West Virginia Capitol Report will be right back. From under the Golden Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report, where we've been talking with the President of the Fayette County Commission, Allison Taylor. And much of the information will be of value to you as you approach your constituencies in each of the counties you live in West Virginia. Thanks for watching the Capitol Report, and we'll see you next week.
This has been the West Virginia Capitol Report.